Michael sat frozen behind his mahogany desk, watching his lawyer's hands tremble as papers scattered like broken pieces of truth. The room smelled of old books and cold coffee, the kind that carried stories of battles won and lost. "Michael, you need to see this," Richard whispered, his voice cracking the silence. Michael leaned forward in his leather chair, the evening traffic outside fading into nothing. Richard pushed a phone toward him, and the screen showed text messages from his own son's number. "The guardianship petition is ready. Dr. Cole will sign the cognitive report for $15,000. Michael's chest tightened as he read the words again and again. "Who is Dr. Cole?" Michael asked, trying to keep his voice steady, though the ground felt like it was tilting beneath him. "A psychiatrist," Richard replied, jaw hardening. "Not a good one. He's been involved in 3 fraudulent elder cases. And the man your son is working with, Daniel Foster, has a history of draining families dry." Michael shook his head slowly, disbelief wrestling with rising dread. This must be a mistake. But even as he said it, his mind began stitching together every strange moment from the past months. "My assistant overheard Foster bragging about a big commission," Richard continued. "She recognized your son's name. That's why I started digging. 3 days earlier, everything had seemed perfect. It was Michael's 67th birthday, and his son Adam had insisted on dinner at a fancy restaurant near the coast. His daughter-in-law Lily wore a dress that sparkled under the sunset, and little Emma giggled as she colored on the menu. "To Dad," Adam toasted, lifting his glass. 67 years young and sharper than any of us." Michael had smiled, warmed by the moment. "I've been thinking about making a proper will," he said gently. "I want things to go where they should. Family should have what I built." Lily clasped his hand. "That's wonderful, Michael. We'll take care of everything." Now, in Richard's office, that memory felt rotten. Richard swiped to another screenshot. "Once we get guardianship, we'll move him to Silver Pines Senior Living. $6,500 a month, but worth it while we liquidate his assets." Michael stared at the words, his jaw tightening. "Liquidate? Like I'm already dead." Richard's expression darkened. "They've drafted the petition. They're claiming you have dementia. They already hired the doctor. This wasn't a last-minute idea, Michael. They've been planning this." The walls seemed to close in as betrayal settled heavily on his chest. Michael closed his eyes, remembering Adam's hug at the restaurant, the smile he thought was genuine. "Why would they do this?" he whispered. Richard sighed. "Your son's lifestyle is expensive. The cars, the luxury house, the trips, they don't match his salary. He and Lily are drowning in debt. And you're their escape route." Michael gripped the chair arms as the room swayed. "How long have you known?" "4 days," Richard said softly. "I needed proof before I warned you." Michael stood slowly, breath steadying with new resolve. "So what do I do now?" Richard met his eyes. "You fight back. But first, you pretend everything is normal." Michael drove home in silence, counting every turn of the streets like they might steady his shaking thoughts. His house on Maple Ridge sat quiet under the evening sun, the porch light glowing faintly. He remembered recent moments that suddenly made terrible sense. Lily asking if he'd been forgetting things, Adam suggesting he see a doctor just to check his memory. They had been planting seeds, building a story. The realization hit like cold rain. This wasn't impulsive. It was planned. And he had almost handed them everything. The next morning, Michael forced himself into his usual routine. He brewed coffee, watched the sunrise through his kitchen window, and tried to breathe normally. At 9:15, Adam called. "Hey Dad," he said brightly, too brightly. "Just checking in. How are you feeling?" Michael kept his voice calm. "I'm fine, Adam. Why wouldn't I be?" There was a pause. "No reason. Lily and I were thinking of stopping by later. Around 3. They had never visited unannounced before. "Sure," Michael said quietly. "I'll be here." Adam and Lily arrived at exactly 3:02, carrying a casserole dish like actors in a staged performance. "We brought dinner," Lily sang, her smile shining too perfectly. "Chicken casserole. Your favorite, right?" Michael couldn't remember ever mentioning casseroles. While Lily busied herself in the kitchen, Adam wandered through the house with unusual interest. He picked up a bank statement, set it down, walked through the rooms as if measuring walls. "Place looks good, Dad," he said casually. "But at your age, it's a lot to manage, isn't it?" Jessica returned with a new question, one Michael had been expecting. "Michael, where do you keep your insurance papers?" she asked sweetly. "We should review them. Make sure everything's current." He tensed but answered gently, "They're in my office. I'll handle it myself." The quick look she exchanged with Adam told him everything. They stayed for an hour, collecting details with polite smiles. After they left, Michael found papers on his desk stacked differently than before. Adam had photographed them. His own son was cataloging his life. 2 days later, Michael's neighbor, Mr. Turner, a retired judge, knocked on his door holding a bag of oranges. "You all right, Michael? You look tired." Michael forced a small smile. "Not sleeping well." Mr. Turner leaned closer. "Yesterday, a man in a white coat came around asking about you. Wanted to know if you seemed confused lately. Said he was from a hospital doing community checks." Michael's heart dropped. "What did you tell him?" Mr. Turner frowned. "That you're sharper than any man your age. And I wrote down his license plate. Thought it felt wrong." Michael accepted the slip of paper. "Thank you, Turner. More than you know." That afternoon, Michael drove to a small office above a sandwich shop to meet the investigator Richard recommended. Her name was Sarah Parker, a former police detective with sharp eyes and calm confidence. She listened quietly as Michael explained everything: the visits, the messages, the doctor who came uninvited. When he finished, she wrote neatly in her notebook. "This is a guardianship setup," she said. "I've seen it before." Michael nodded slowly. "Can you find out what they're planning?" Sarah gave a firm nod. "Give me 2 weeks, and I'll have answers." The next 14 days stretched like months. Adam and Lily visited again, each time more carefully choosing their words. "Dad, maybe someone should help you with your accounts," Adam suggested once. "It's just smart planning." Lily took photos of his kitchen, pretending it was for her upcoming remodel. Michael played along, smiled when needed, spoke gently, and hid every trace of suspicion. Inside, he counted every lie they told and wondered how long they'd been practicing them. Every visit reminded him that the betrayal was real. Sarah finally called. "We need to meet," she said. Her office smelled of paper and coffee when he arrived. A thick file sat on her desk. "Your son is in serious debt," she began, sliding statements toward him. "Credit cards, car loans, crypto losses, about $180,000 in total." Michael felt his stomach twist. "How has he been paying?" Sarah tapped the papers. "Barely. And Lily isn't bringing in steady money. Their lifestyle is collapsing." She paused. "They saw your assets as the solution." She showed him emails between Adam and Daniel Foster, discussing asset recovery through guardianship. She explained how these schemes worked, how elderly people lost homes, bank accounts, and freedom in a matter of months. "They already drafted the guardianship petition," she added quietly. "They're planning to claim you're mentally declining." She slid over a printed form. "They even chose the senior home they'd send you to, Silver Pines." Michael stared at the paper, imagining himself locked away in a room he didn't choose. "When?" he whispered. "Mid-April," Sarah replied. "They're ready." Michael left the office with the file tucked under his arm and a storm of anger in his chest. He drove home slowly, replaying memories of Adam as a boy, learning to ride a bike, graduating high school, promising he'd never disappoint him. Somewhere along the years, something had broken. When he stepped inside his house, it felt different. Not like a home, but a battlefield he hadn't chosen. He stood in the hallway for a long moment, wondering how a son could become a stranger so quietly. Richard reacted quickly when Michael brought him the evidence. "We'll get medical evaluations first," he said firmly. 3 different specialists. "We need proof you're completely sound." Over the next week, Michael spent hours in hospitals, answering memory questions, completing puzzles, sitting through scans. Each doctor examined him closely, and each one concluded the same thing: he was mentally sharp, fully competent, and nowhere near impaired. Dr. Williams handed him the final report. "Whoever claimed you have dementia is lying," she said bluntly. Michael nodded. I already knew that. The second step was financial defense. Richard introduced him to a trust attorney, an older man named Mark Harrison. A revocable trust, Mark explained, will protect all your assets and make guardianship over your finances pointless. Over 3 days, Michael transferred everything he owned, the house, investments, accounts, into the new trust. The paperwork felt like armor being fastened around him piece by piece. When the final stamp landed, Richard smiled. Your son can file whatever he wants. He won't get a dime. But the most explosive moment came a week later when Michael answered a knock at the door. A man in a polo shirt stood there holding a clipboard. Mr. Harris? I'm Dr. Cole, offering free community screenings. Michael's jaw clenched, but he smiled warmly. Come in. He let the fake doctor sit on his couch and begin the questions. Do you forget appointments? Cole asked. No, do you get confused? Not at all. Finances overwhelming you? My finances are excellent. Then Michael leaned forward. Tell me, doctor, who sent you? The man froze. This is a Veterans Association program, Dr. Cole insisted, forcing a smile. Michael shook his head slowly. Interesting. I called them yesterday. They've never heard of you. Cole's eyes widened, and Michael stood calmly. Tell Daniel Foster the plan failed. The color drained from the man's face. He hurried out the door, practically running to his car. Michael locked the door behind him and exhaled deeply. That was the moment he knew he couldn't pretend much longer. War was coming, whether he wanted it or not. 3 days later, a letter from the county arrived, an official notice of guardianship filing. Adam and Lily had signed the documents, claiming he was confused, unsafe, and mentally declining. They listed fake incidents, fabricated witnesses, and a medical report waiting to be submitted. Michael read the petition slowly, line by line, until the page felt heavy in his hands. Then he called Richard. They filed, he said quietly. Richard didn't hesitate. Good, he replied. Now we show them what preparation looks like. They think they're about to win. They have no idea we're ready. On the morning of the hearing, Michael dressed with quiet precision, a navy suit, polished shoes, and the small bronze service pin he rarely wore. When he arrived at the courthouse, Richard and 2 other attorneys were waiting, their presence forming a silent wall of protection. Adam and Lily walked in moments later with their lawyer, Daniel Foster. Lily's smile flickered when she saw Michael standing tall, confident, nothing like the man they had described in their petition. Adam swallowed hard, realizing their story was already unraveling before the judge even entered. The courtroom filled with a tense hush as Judge Holloway took her seat. Daniel stood first, clearing his throat and painting Michael as a confused old man in decline. He spoke of memory lapses and safety concerns, referencing the fabricated stories Adam and Lily had created. Lily dabbed her eyes with a tissue, her performance flawless. Adam nodded along, gaze fixed on the floor. When Daniel finished, the judge turned to Richard. Mr. Bennett, your response, she asked. Richard rose slowly, his voice steady. Your Honor, the petition before you is built on lies. Richard began with the medical evaluations, handing the reports to the judge. 3 independent specialists from 3 different hospitals have confirmed Mr. Harris is fully competent, he said. No dementia. No decline. No impairment. The judge examined the papers, her expression hardening. Then Richard played a recording, the conversation between Michael and the fake doctor. The courtroom fell silent as everyone heard Dr. Cole stumble, lie, and try to escape. Adam's face paled. Lily's hand trembled. Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his seat, knowing the recording had shattered their case. And there's more, Richard continued, placing printed emails onto the table. These messages detail payments, planning, and illegal coordination between the petitioners and Mr. Foster. Daniel stood abruptly. Objection, Your Honor. But the judge shook her head. Sit down, Mr. Foster. The email spoke loudly, discussing fees, timelines, and guarantees that Michael would be placed in Silver Pines immediately after the hearing. When the judge finished reading, she exhaled sharply. Mr. Foster, step forward, she ordered. Daniel rose slowly, sweat forming at his temple. Is this your correspondence? Her voice cut like steel. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came out. The judge leaned back. "This court does not tolerate fraud," she said coldly. She turned to Adam and Lily. "And you too, you attempted to strip your father of his rights, his property, and his freedom." Lily finally broke, sobbing into her hands. Adam stared at the floor, unable to lift his head. The judge struck her gavel once, the sound echoing sharply. "Petition denied. Further, this court will forward all evidence for criminal investigation. Mr. Harris, you are free to go." Outside the courtroom, Adam hurried after his father. "Dad, please wait." Michael paused, but didn't turn fully. Adam's voice shook. I can explain." Michael finally looked at him. "Explain how you planned to lock me away. How you prepared to sell my home. How you were ready to declare me incompetent." Adam swallowed hard, tears forming. "It wasn't supposed to go that far," he whispered. Michael shook his head. "It went exactly as far as you planned. You just didn't expect me to fight back." 4 days after the hearing, the news spread quietly through the community. Neighbors who once waved politely now whispered about what Adam and Lily had attempted. Lily retreated from public eye, avoiding grocery stores and school events. Adam lost clients at work, one after another, until his manager called him in. "People don't want to deal with someone in the news for trying to steal from his own father," the manager said gently. Adam nodded without arguing. He knew this fallout wasn't a surprise. It was the price of the choices he'd made. One evening, Michael sat on his porch watching the sun dip behind the trees when he saw Mr. Turner walking up with a bag of fresh oranges. "Heard about the hearing," the old judge said softly. "You did the right thing." Michael nodded, though his chest felt heavier than expected. "Why doesn't it feel like victory?" he asked quietly. Turner sat beside him. "Because winning doesn't erase the wound. Betrayal cuts deep, Michael. And when it's your own child, the scar stays even after justice has been served." Michael spent the following weeks repairing his life piece by piece. Richard helped him file complaints against Daniel Foster and Dr. Cole. Sarah gathered every remaining document needed by the authorities. The trust was secured, his home was safe, and his accounts were protected. Yet each time he passed the framed photo of Adam as a boy, grinning with a missing tooth and holding a soccer ball, his chest tightened. "Where did it go wrong?" he whispered once, brushing dust off the picture frame. But life didn't pause for broken hearts. One Saturday morning, Michael received a call from Sarah. "There's an update," she said. "The investigation is moving faster than expected. Foster may face charges soon." Michael thanked her, hung up, and stared out the window. He felt relief, but not joy. Not anymore. Because every victory reminded him of something he didn't want to admit. The battle was nearly won, but his family wasn't coming back the same. And the real ending would demand a choice between justice and something far harder. 2 weeks later, Michael received an unexpected visit. Adam stood on the porch, holding his cap in both hands like a child awaiting punishment. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes tired. "Dad, can we talk?" he asked. Michael stepped aside wordlessly. Adam entered the living room and sank into a chair. "I lost my job," he admitted. Lily left. She took Emily to her parents' place. He looked up, shame written across his face. "I know I ruined everything. I don't know how to fix any of it anymore." Michael sat across from him, his hands clasped tightly. "Fixing starts with truth," he said quietly. Adam nodded, wiping his eyes. "I was drowning, Dad. The car, the house, Lily's spending. I thought if I could just get control of your estate, everything would stop falling apart." Michael stared at him, feeling the pain settle deep in his chest. "So you planned to take my home? My freedom? My dignity?" Adam bowed his head. "I did. I was selfish. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Dad." The apology hung between them like fog, heavy, lingering, difficult to breathe through. Michael studied the son he once trusted completely, the boy he taught to fish and ride a bike and stand his ground. "Sorry isn't enough," he said softly. "But it's a start." Adam nodded weakly. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to hear me say it." Michael exhaled slowly. "You almost destroyed me, Adam. And in the process, you destroyed yourself." Adam's voice cracked. "I know, Dad. I know." Later that evening, Michael walked the quiet halls of his home, touching the picture frames one by one. Old memories felt heavier now: birthdays, school plays, family dinners. Sarah called again with new updates. "Dr. Cole confessed," she reported. "And Daniel Foster's license may be suspended soon. The system is catching up to them." Michael thanked her, hung up, and stared at the phone. Justice was being done. Every wrong was being corrected. But the ache inside him didn't fade. Because justice could repair systems, not hearts. Days later, Michael found himself standing at the edge of the lake near his home. The water rippled gently under the afternoon sun. He remembered meeting Adam there years ago, teaching him how to skip stones. "You'll never control the ripples," he had told the boy. "You can only choose the stone you throw." Now he wondered whether revenge had been too heavy a stone. Whether the ripples had gone too far. Whether the damage had spread further than he ever intended. Sometimes justice left shadows behind. One morning, he received a small envelope in the mail. Inside was a drawing, a simple crayon picture of a house, a big sun, and 3 stick figures. Emily had drawn it. She had written in shaky letters at the bottom, "I miss you, Grandpa." Michael stood there frozen, the edges of the paper trembling in his hand. His granddaughter had nothing to do with the schemes, the lies, or the greed. Yet she had suffered the silence, the distance, the broken family. And that, Michael realized, was the deepest wound of all. He drove to see her the next afternoon. Emily ran across the yard the moment she saw him, her little arms wrapping tightly around his waist. "Grandpa, you came," she said, smiling with pure joy. Her mother's eyes softened at the doorway. "Thank you for coming," Lily said quietly. There was no pride left in her voice. Only exhaustion. Only truth. Michael knelt to Emily's level. "I missed you too, sweetheart," he whispered. In that moment, he understood something simple. Some parts of family were worth saving, even when trust had shattered. When Michael drove home that evening, he felt lighter than he had in months. He called Richard the next morning. "I want to end this," he said. "The lawsuits, the battles, the noise. I want peace, not punishment." Richard hesitated. "Are you sure? You have every right to continue." Michael nodded slowly. "I've protected my home. My freedom. My life's work. But if I keep fighting, I'll lose what I can't replace." Richard exhaled. "Then I'll draw up the settlement papers." Sometimes the strongest choice is mercy. Adam agreed to the reduced settlement, $50,000 over 10 years, something he could manage with his new job at a warehouse. He thanked Michael quietly, without pride, without excuses. "I don't deserve this," he said. "But I'm grateful." Michael didn't reply. Instead, he simply nodded. Some wounds didn't need words. Over time, Adam visited occasionally. Never for long, never asking for anything, just bringing Emily to see her grandfather. Each visit was quiet, gentle, cautious healing. Broken pieces, slowly being placed where they belonged. On a warm evening, Michael sat on his porch and watched the sun sink behind the trees, painting the sky in soft gold. For the first time in months, the world felt steady again. He had fought the hardest battle of his life and won, not just in court, but in his heart. Justice had protected him. Mercy had freed him. And in the quiet of his porch he finally understood. Some victories come from strength, others come from forgiveness, and the greatest ones come when a man chooses both. Michael closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and whispered, "I'm finally home."